I'm going to present a little tutorial to install the C compiler on your machine. If you're using Windows 10, I believe it can work on also on other versions of Windows. So there's another tutorial for macOS that I made. You can look at it if you use macOS. And some of the tutorial for macOS can be reused if you use Linux because it's a Unix-based system. So okay. So it's a bit technical. If you find a better version to do that, you're welcome to use whatever tool you want, because in the end C is C and the compiler is going to work the same way. But the best cross-platform compiler I found is Gcc, and this is what we're going to use. We're going to present here. So I'm going to present first. The first thing you need is to install the Gcc compiler, which in Windows is called Win10, which is the easiest way to install it. So it's a bit long. I will send you the link next to the videos. You will find the link, and this link is to a page that explains to you really step by step how to install Win10 on Windows 10. Now it's a bit outdated. Some of the things will look a bit different, but I'm going to run you through it. The first thing that is outdated is actually, I apologize if it's not always very responsive because I am using virtual machine on a desktop here and I have a hard time to, okay. The first thing is to, I apologize, there's something wrong with the mouse. It's not working well. Okay, so the first thing is to download Win10 installer. So the first thing that is not updated is this website. So you can just type on Win10 Windows 10 download on Google and you're going to end up on this page. Again, because it's a virtual machine, I'm using on a Mac actually, just so I can do this tutorial. It's not always looking very nice, but if you type Win10, so this is a link. I'm going to also share the link next to the video. You have a download link here, and sometimes I just have to click again here. Okay, so it's installing this little .exe program, and you're going to click on install. Okay. The installation directory, you're going to leave it the way it is. You just click on continue. There is, well, here it says there is a application already installed. I'm going to do a reinstall just for the sake of this tutorial, but you should not have this message if you didn't install it yet. So it's going to download and set up Win10 installation manager. It takes quite a while to download everything and install everything, so you have to be patient. Here I can go back to the series of steps. It really tells you step by step what to do. So we've done that already: install, continue, and then there is this process that can take a little while, right? And then once it's done, you have a pop-up window that appears, and you have to check some specific boxes. So we'll go back to that. Oh, it's actually already done. I thought it was taking longer, but maybe because I installed it before. So I do continue, and then here you really have to make sure you check all the boxes that are already, sorry about that, going back. Please make sure that you selected all the checkboxes. So well, they are mine already installed. You need here it actually is requiring you to install everything. I guess we can install everything. You can mark for installation. You press mark for installation. I only installed the very minimum but you can also install everything just for the sake of completeness. And here it's gonna allow me to. What is a bit strange is, please bear with me again, this VM is not always very responsive. And then we click on installation, apply changes, and apply. Okay, so it's going to download the package, and this actually might be the process that takes a little while, rather than the first one. So it's going to download everything you need and install everything. Okay, so after a while, all changes were applied successfully, so it can take 20-30 minutes depending on your machine, maybe more. And depending on how much you install all at once. Once everything installed, you can close, and then we need to set up the environment variables. So that Windows knows where to find the GCC application when you call it with the command line, or when Eclipse calls it. So we're going to just go to settings here on Windows, and you can go to system, but you can also directly find it by typing environment variable, edit system environment variable. So yeah, you press edit system environment variable, and you click here on environment variables. And here we are going to go to, and it's actually also in this tutorial, right? So we're going to edit on system variables. So the box in the bottom, we're going to edit path. Okay, so you go to edit, and what you want is to add these two. That's as simple as that. Okay, so I already did it, but if you didn't, you just do new, right? And you copy paste whatever is in the tutorial here, or you can just write it, manually. I mean GW /bin, but already, and I may put a typo here, but I already have it anyway. So you, I don't need to put it, but you add these two, right? You need to add these two, and they are, again, not very responsive, and you can just copy paste them from here. Actually, in this tutorial, they only require you to add the min GW /bin. So that's pretty enough. You press OK, OK, OK 3 times, right? 3 windows. And now we can try to use GCC using the command prompt, right? So you can find the command prompt in Windows system, command prompt. Right, if we see if you see that GCC fatal error, no input files, compilation terminated, that means that's installed successfully. You have it installed. If it doesn't work, you might want to restart your computer just to make sure that the environment variable have been updated. Sometimes it takes a little while, right? So that's it. That's basically what we need so far for installing GCC, the compiler for C. Now I'm going to show you how it works. It actually is basically all you need, but because you're used to using an IDE for Java, and using an IDE can be nice also for C, I will show you how you can use Eclipse, I don't know if we say Eclipse or Eclipse, to edit and compile and run your C program, okay? But first, because we already have the tool that essentially is needed to actually run a C program, I'm going to show you how it works. So we can just create, say in my root folder is this one, user. So I have an Eclipse workspace, but I'm going to create a new folder, dev, and here I'm going to create a folder C. Okay, and in there I'm going to start a new file. I use a Sublime Text. I'm also going to share a link with you, but you can use any editor, text editor you want. And I'm going to call that file. So it's going to be in dev C, and I'm going to call it hello cs390.c and save. Okay, and I'm going to have this just copy paste this very little program that says hello cs390, and so now I go back to the command prompt and I go to the proper folder. So I said dev and then C. Okay, I should have my hello.c file. You can see hello cs390.c file. Now I'm going to use GCC, which we just installed, to compile that file, right? GCC hello cs390.c, and if you don't see anything, that means it worked, right? And the other way you can see it works is that there is a.exe that appears that was not there before. This is the compiled file that is in machine language, or the binary file. So you can, I mean, it's not really a binary file, it's an executable. You can now execute that, right? A.exe. And hello cs390 appears as the program says here. Okay, so it works, right? Now, what would you see? And eventually, this is all you need. If you want to do your assignment, you can just use that. That's personally what I prefer. It's a bit easier and more ergonomic on a Mac, but it works fine also on a PC. But it works nicely. Sorry. So now I'm gonna forget about this one. So this is my file. Now, what would you see if you, for instance, you made a mistake, like a syntax mistake, like you forgot the N at return, right? First, the important thing to notice is that if I just re-execute a.exe, it's not executing the new version of this program, right? It's executing the password because I didn't recompile it, right? So I would need to try to recompile it. So I need to go back to gcc hello .c, and now if I try to execute that, it's going to tell me, well, there's a error here, right? It's going to tell me the line 16, there's an error, return undeclared, right? So it can't find the variable or the identifier return because it doesn't exist. So that's where the mistake is. Okay, so I can look line 16. Okay, that's mistake. I can correct it, and then save. Don't forget to save, and then do my GCC again, and now it's going to work, right? And I can execute it, and it's going to execute properly. Okay. Now, of course, again, if I change this into hello world, and I save, right? I saved it, Control S, and I do a.exe, it's not going to change anything, right? Remember, you need to do the GCC again to compile, then a.exe, you always need to do the 2 steps. And then you see hello world, you see your change, okay? So that's important to understand. It's really a two-step process. You have to remember that. Sorry about that. Okay, so so that's it. The only inconvenience, of course, is that when I was using a text editor like Sublime Text, okay, so although it does catch the syntax properly to highlight the text, I mean, in a color to make it easier to code, right, and to edit. It doesn't do a complete syntactic analysis, right? So if we go back to what we saw in the first part of the course, Sublime Text contains basically a scanner, but not a parser, if you want, right? So it's not going to be able to tell you that retur is not retur1 doesn't work. No, it puts retur in white, which should be an indication. But some other things are going to look perfect on this editor, but they would contain mistake that NetBeans or Eclipse would catch. Okay. Immediately, which would allow you to avoid the back and forth between the compiler and the editor. That's the only issue with this, is there's a lot of back and forth, right? So it can be time consuming. So I'm going to show you how you can actually use an IDE with C, and the one I picked is Eclipse because it's fairly close to the experience you had with NetBeans for Java, and maybe you've used Eclipse before. And I think it works pretty well, and it works on different platforms. So for Eclipse, we're going to need to install an IDE specifically for C, C++. So I would advise, if you already have Eclipse or you're comfortable with it, you can download the regular Java one, because by default it's going to be made for Java, and then add the add-on for C, C++, which is going to be in Eclipse language, a perspective. But if you're not comfortable with Eclipse, I would go online and type Eclipse CDT IDE C, C++. Or you don't need to put all of this. If you put Eclipse IDE C, C++, it should work. The CDT is the name of this specific standalone package that is for C, C++ developers. So it's going to take you to a page. You can download directly the version that is here. It also tells you there is a more recent version. You can go install the more recent version. I think both will work fine. It's not like absolutely critical. But make sure you install, if you go to the most recent version, it puts by default the ID for Java developers, but you want the ID for C, C++ developers, right? So you can click on that and you have the download links here, right? So for the Mac users, in the other tutorial, we did this one here because it's Windows. We're going to use this one. There's also a link for Linux. And we just download it. And actually, it is a standalone application. It contains just a folder with the application directly. You don't have to install anything. So if we open, we can then just there's the application directly in there, so you can just like take it and slide it to the desktop, which I already did, so I'm not going to do it again. You slide it to the desktop or wherever you want, and then you just open it and run Eclipse, and it should start. So unless you already have Eclipse for Java, where it can be confused because it's going to open one or the other, if you just have this one, it should directly take you to the C, C++ IDE package. So it's going to be very easy to start a program like that. So, actually, this is a workspace I've already used. So I'm gonna start over on a new workspace. I'm gonna call it workspace 2. So that it looks like what it would look like if you open it for the first time. So it's going to create a folder, in my case, workspace 2. By default, it's going to be in your root folder, Eclipse workspace 2. Okay, there's nothing in there yet. And then you arrive at this welcome page. and you can click on create a new C++ project. Okay, and then we're going to select a C managed build. Okay, so of course we're going to reuse most of that for C++ later on. Right now we're just focusing on C, and you can select Hello World ANSEC project, and then for the tool chains on the right, it proposed the min GW GCC. So we just installed that, so we should select that. We select Hello World, min GW, and Hello CS390 2. Okay, just to separate. That's the project name. We don't need to put .c. And then next we can put an author, and then we can leave these configurations finished. Okay. So now, if you arrive, if for some reason you miss the welcome page, you can always do that again by just doing File, Open. Sorry, where do we go? File, New. Okay, New C project, and then you arrive at that same window, or you select C managed build. Okay, so you can do that. If you are using Eclipse for Java and you just installed the add-on, it can be a bit, you can get lost easily. Then you have to go into Window, Perspective, Open Perspective, and Others. And here you select C++, right? If your perspective by default is Java, you're gonna have to select C++, you do Open, and then you're gonna find all of that, and you're gonna be able to find the file, new C++ project, and everything you need. Okay, so so here it creates a little program, basically the same one, except here it's return exit success instead of return 1. And that's it. I mean, it's pretty simple. The advantage here is that, if I write return instead of return, it's going to actually underline in red, just like it would do on NetBeans or Eclipse for Java, right? So that's, in this sense, you're going to have an experience that's closer to what you're used to with Java when you use that tool. But it's going to work the same way. If I try to directly launch, is it going to work? Maybe, because it knows, but it might not work because it needs to let's open the console. It needs to build first, right? So first we need to build, and it's basically doing doing the command line using GCC like we've done manually, but automatically. Okay, 0 errors, 0 warnings, right? So you see, it's a bit different from Java, right? There is really this first build compiling steps where it's going to check for errors and warnings, and then you can launch. Okay, the launch doesn't work because I need to run with a certain, I need to specify a configuration. So you're going to do right click on the project and run as, and you specify local C++ application. Okay, not the first one because we don't have a container application. We don't use that. Local application, and then you see the result hello world. Okay, now if you do change hello world into hello CS390 and I save and I run, it's going to recompile and write hello CS390. See, what is interesting is that you don't have to do this back and forth that we did with the command line. Okay, so it's a little bit more user-friendly and ergonomic. And that's it. Eventually, unlike for Java, you do not need to export the whole project because a C program is in essence just the C file, the .c file. So for this assignment, you only need to send the .c file, right? So you don't need to send anything else. The .c file, you can find it in the Eclipse workspace 2 that I just created. I can find my hello CS390_2 folder, and in source I will find the .c file. Okay, and I can also open it and edit it from Sublime Text if I want to. So I just presented to you both methods. I hope it's clear. I hope it's going to work fine. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any issue. Thank you very much.